Thursday morning. The NFL does not like to stay quiet for very long. They were quiet for a couple of weeks, and then they dropped the schedule on us last night. Everybody scurrying to figure out if they're going to make a road trip or what home games they're going to go to or if their team's going to be any good. So that was fun last night. You had all the leaks leading up to the night and then the full schedule at night. Of course, tonight, the New York Rangers back out on the ice down against the Carolina Hurricanes. I see Boomer breaking out some real big Rangers flannel energy this morning, so I know he's fired up for that. But I don't know why, Eddie, did you mean to talk to me? Okay, very good. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't something going on because he was saying something. But yes, big Thursday, Jets and Giants. And I got to say, I really like the way the Jets schedule lays out, and that might be different than what the Jet fan is thinking because of the first 10 days. They got to play their first 3 games. I like the way it lays out. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. So they got a Monday, Sunday, and then a Thursday night game. So San Francisco, Tennessee, and New England. I would like to think 2-1 after that, but you never know. I mean, like Aaron Rodgers got hurt in the first game last year. So we could look at all these numbers. We could look at who we believe has the easiest schedule, who has the hardest schedule, where do the Jets and Giants line up in those situations. The Giants have, I think, the 7th hardest schedule, and this is all based on last year's winning percentage.
Yeah.
But I think we all have a kind of a sense that there are going to be certain teams that are definitely going to be better this year. Now, last year, remember, everybody thought Houston was going to be a mail-in because they had a new coach and a rookie quarterback, and it turned out that Houston went to the playoffs.
Yes.
And Houston now is looked at by the NFL as a team that is on the rise. The other team that looks to be on the rise in the eyes of the NFL, anyway, when I look at the overall schedule, is the Chicago Bears. They look to be on the rise. They bet last year heavily, the NFL did, when it came to TV exposure, on the Lions.
Yeah, and it worked out for them.
It did work out for them, but one of these teams or a couple of these teams are going to end up going south the second half of the season due in large part to injuries. But when you think about who has the hardest schedule, of course it's going to be the AFC North teams with the exception of the Bengals. Browns, Ravens, Steelers are all 1, 2, and 3 in terms of hardest schedule going back to last year's win percentage. And then when you think about the easiest schedules, it's got to be the NFC South, because they play against each other. And that's why I think that Atlanta feels really bullish about what their opportunities and chances are this year with Kirk Cousins as their quarterback.
Yeah, and that's something we were saying about the New Orleans Saints last year, and it didn't really work out for them. And a couple of things about the local teams. One, with the Giants and looking at their schedule previous to them actually playing games, the last 2 years on paper and the way it worked out were similar. So a couple years ago when they made the playoffs, we looked at the schedule and said, man, like there's some games here that they could win in a row. They did. Last year we looked at the beginning of the schedule and said that is not a good situation for the New York Giants. It's going to be very, very difficult to get through the first 6 games. Clearly they were terrible. They never recovered, and it was another mess of a season. So sometimes it works out, sometimes it does not. And as far as the Jets, the reason why I like this schedule, and I had a couple of people on X saying, oh, the NFL screwed the Jets with the first 3 games in 10 days. Well, if you're going to have that, you want that in the beginning of the season.
You know, a Jet fan wakes up every other day, every day, and says they're screwed. It doesn't matter what the situation is.
But, yes, but to calm any of those concerns, if you're going to play one of the best teams in football, I think you get them week 1. And that's what they're doing with the 49ers. And then they got the Titans and the Patriots after that they're going to be favored in. And I would much rather have that stretch in the beginning of the season as opposed to November and December where you got to cram 3 games in 10 days and you're all banged up and you're tired and everything else in the course of a 17-game season.
And just know this. So the NFL says to a team, look, you have a game in London. The Jets obviously are playing, what are they playing?
The Vikings
in London. So, by the way, both New York teams are playing the Vikings.
Yeah, week 1, Giants, Vikings.
Yeah, amazing. So they say to the teams that are playing in London, would you like your bye after that game? It's up to the team to decide that. So if the team says, yeah, we want the bye after London, we'll get the bye after London. It obviously shows you that the Jets have elected not to take the bye after London, much like Buffalo last year.
And that didn't work out for them.
It did not work out for the Buffalo Bills. Now, the interesting thing about what the game is after that London trip, it's a Monday night game, and it's at home versus Buffalo. So they do get the extra day, but it's one of the tougher teams that they're going to play. You would like to think, even though they've lost a number of players up there, they're retooling, and that quarterback, Josh Allen, is going to give them a chance to win in every single game. So they have that little run there. They got the Thursday night versus New England, and then it's Sunday versus Denver. Then they got to go to London versus Minnesota. Then they're home versus Buffalo. So 3 of those 4 games are at MetLife Stadium in that little cluster of games.
Yes, and a lot of primetime games once again for the New York Jets as they are banking on Aaron Rodgers staying healthy this year. We know we got the full complement of primetime games for the Jets last year, and it ended up not being a good thing for the NFL or Jets fans or anybody that had to watch those games. But this year they've got another full complement of primetime games, and of course it starts off with Monday Night Football and the 49ers. But I mean, if you look at the way the beginning of this schedule is, you could really make a case that the Jets get off to a great start, and there's a lot of buzz around the team. Now, I know that every time we talk about this, it's going to be the reference to what happened week 1 last year with all of the hype and Hard Knocks and Aaron Rodgers with the flag, and then all of the air went out of the balloon. But we don't know that that's going to happen. We don't have any clue what injuries are going to happen, but just looking at the schedule, assuming that your quarterback actually stays healthy this year, I think that, and I was down on the Jets actually coming into the year. Looking at this, I could see them getting off to a great start, absolutely great. So to me, it's 4-1. Pencil them in for 4-1.
Well, easy with that, Chief. But I would just say, if Aaron's healthy and he's playing at the level that we believe he can play at with the players that they have signed, that they have brought in, look, I think they passed the Bills in terms of overall roster, and I would probably say the same thing about the Dolphins. So that means the Jets, to me, have the inside track for the AFC East. Again, we have a million miles to go. These are just kind of early prognostications, if you will. Now, the interesting thing also about this schedule, and remember we were talking about the Christmas schedule and Netflix and all that other stuff.
Yes.
All right, so here's what's going on there. So they selected 4 teams. Okay, those 4 teams are Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Houston. So on the Saturday prior to the Wednesday game, which is Christmas, you have Houston at Kansas City and Pittsburgh at Baltimore. And then those same 4 teams are going to play on Christmas Day. And the teams that hosted on Wednesday are now traveling. On Saturday. The teams that hosted on Saturday are now traveling on Wednesday. So you're going to have on Saturday, right? We're talking about Saturday. You have Houston at Kansas City, yes. Pittsburgh at Baltimore.
Okay, so that's exactly what we were talking about swapping everybody and then playing them a couple days later on Christmas.
The teams that were home on Saturday, Kansas City and Baltimore, will now travel on Wednesday. And they're short trips, Kansas City to Pittsburgh and then Buffalo to Houston. The interesting thing about Netflix right now, as we were talking about earlier this week, is that they don't really have a broadcast partner to actually broadcast the games. So I believe NBC does all the producing of the games for Amazon Prime on Thursday nights.
Okay.
So that's a little bit of I'm sure Amazon pays NBC to do that. The question is who is going to be producing and calling the games on Netflix on that Christmas Day. So there's 2 games on Christmas Day, 1 o'clock, and that's going to be Kansas City at Pittsburgh, and then 4:30 Baltimore at Houston. They don't have announcers or production crews assigned to those yet. So Netflix has got to come to a deal with somebody. Now,
Boomer Esiason.
No. NBC that Saturday, has gotten those 2 games. They basically auctioned off, the NFL auctioned off those 2 games on Saturday.
Yeah.
Which is Houston and Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. NBC paid for those games outside of their regular contract. And then, of course, Netflix comes in, and then they buy the 2 games on Christmas Day. Now, Netflix can stream all over the world, which is the international TV rights deal that the NFL has been wishing for years and years and years and years, and now they have it. And this is going to be interesting to see how many people are actually watching around the world as they go into the foray of another streaming service. But the point is, who is going to produce the games and who is going to be calling the games. And I would think that they would have to have some sort of deal with either Fox, ABC, ESPN, maybe the NFL Network can probably do some of the pregame and postgame and halftime from a studio standpoint, or CBS. But I don't think it will be CBS simply because CBS, our company, is trying to undergo a sale. Paramount is trying to be sold. And I don't know who's making decisions here, who's not making decisions here, if Paramount does get sold and the sale goes through. So that all of that is still in play. So I would think, if I had to guess, because Netflix is in LA and Fox is in LA mainly, I would think that they would come to some sort of deal where maybe Fox would produce the game and maybe some of their announcers, like a Greg Olson, would end up doing one of these games on Christmas Day.
Okay. Well, that sounds like it makes sense to me. The NFL did a good job of picking teams that are probably going to be pretty good at that point in the season, because it's a dangerous thing. You put a game on Netflix and people go to Netflix and all of a sudden you're watching Love on the Spectrum or you end up watching a serial killer documentary. You're like, oh, wait a second. I just opened up Netflix. This game sucks. This looks really good. This serial killer documentary just dropped. I'm going to watch that.
It's like the Black Friday game. So the Black Friday game is back again this year.
Right.
And I believe it's Kansas City and Oakland, I believe.
Okay.
So, I mean.
Las Vegas, you mean?
Yeah. God dang it. So I will say that it looks like Patrick Mahomes is going to be playing every week in prime time somehow or on national
he should
television.
be. This is the time for that to happen. He is the biggest draw, the biggest name in the NFL in the middle of his prime, so we should be seeing a lot of him. A different schedule, more international games. We have a Brazil game. We've got Netflix involved. We've got Hard Knocks off season with the New York Giants that dropped yesterday. I first thought it was the training camp one, and I thought that they were just calling it off season as opposed to in season. Then I found out that no, this is a completely different series, as they're following the Giants starting in January and through the draft and free agency and all of that stuff. So you've got that, as well as the NFL just keeps expanding, keeps growing. Used to just be Hard Knocks training camp, then it was Hard Knocks training camp and in season. Now it's Hard Knocks off season, training camp and in season. There used to be one London game. Now there's 3 London games. They used to only play in London. Now they're playing in Germany. Now they're playing in Brazil. They used to just be on CBS, Fox, and ESPN. Now they're on CBS, Fox, ESPN, Netflix, Amazon. It's just boom, 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 growing with no signs of slowing down.
And the NFL will tell you. Now, this is a talking point for the NFL, and I'm just going to regurgitate it like they do, the political heads do.
Regurgitation.
Okay? Regurgitation, talking point, 85% of the games are still available, over the air. And even if a game is, let's say, on Netflix, I do believe that the local markets will still receive it over the air on their network televisions.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Houston, those markets are still going to be able to get those games over the normal traditional way of doing and watching TV, as opposed to everybody else. So here in New York, you got to be on Netflix. In California, you got to be on Netflix. In Rome, Italy, you got to be on Netflix. So the idea is to see if they can expand their footprint internationally, not only with games, but now all of a sudden on Christmas, which I guess Netflix has a huge audience on Christmas.
Okay. Well, that would make sense, wouldn't it?
That's what I was told. They have a huge audience on Christmas, and it's TV on demand.
It is. I think, though, wherever those games were going to be, this is what's interesting about it is does anybody really, really benefit from these games being on Netflix? And it sounds to me that the NFL, because Netflix is more international, is benefiting from it more. But, is Netflix and the money that they have to pay for these games with the exposure that they already have around the world to benefit from this? Well, no, I do think it matters, because you have to see how many more subscriptions you get from the NFL being on Netflix to justify the cost of the exorbitant price of these NFL games.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting. Again, this is going to be much like Black Friday was a huge success last year, and Christmas games were a huge success last year. This is why they're playing games on Christmas on a Wednesday afternoon. It's because of the I think, 28 million people that were watching. So that's one of the reasons why they want to do this. Is also probably as a test case for Netflix. If and when the NFL wants to blow up the contract with the media rights holders, they can do it. I think they probably could do it in 27 or 28, I think. And they can go back to the well. And Netflix at that point in time, instead of spending $150 million plus on 4 games, which is 2 this Christmas, 1 next Christmas, and 1 the Christmas 2026, they could end up thinking that's 4 games over $150 million.
Yep, and they've commanded that price.
By the way, that would be games that would normally be played either on CBS or Fox.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge deal. It's a shift in entertainment. It's been going on for a while, and this is another one of those major boulders that has been moved. And Netflix now getting into major live sports with these games. So yeah, it's truly fascinating where this has all gone. And I do think that, if you are someone that has Netflix already, which is most people, you're going to watch these games on Christmas.
Right, exactly. And by the way, Netflix going into live programming like the Brady Roast, of course, the Paul and Mike Tyson fight.
Sure.
They also are doing WWE, I believe.
Yes.
Right. So you have you can feel that all of a sudden Netflix realizes that they can't just rely on actors making crappy movies anymore. Like, you're not going to pay a crappy actor $20 million to do a movie when nobody's watching it.